It's the Brahmas at the Battlehawks. St. Louis is a 2.5-point home favorite here. Total sitting at 42.5. Forecast is not going to apply here to either side because both teams are going to play indoors the rest of the way, no matter what happens, because the championship is in St. Louis. So let's get into this one. 7 weeks ago, which was the last meeting between these two, a 31-24 win by the Battlehawks in the Alamo Dome. And if you remember that, watching that game, it didn't feel like a one-score game to me. You know, the Brahmas scored late. They tried to rally back into it, but you watch it back, and St. Louis was in control from start to finish. And now we go right back to what has become the burning question every single week in the UFL. Will A.J. McCarron play? Will he start? So here's what we know right now, and I'm going to give you everything we do. He's been designated as day-to-day by Anthony Becht. Last week, he served as an emergency backup quarterback to Manny Wilkins, where Becht clarified that they were going to win it or lose it with Manny, and McCarron was only coming in if Wilkins got injured. It was the same story this week as it was last week. McCarron logged a full Tuesday and a full Wednesday practice. We have yet to get the Thursday practice report. We're awaiting that. Might have it by the end of the show if I keep refreshing during break, but we're still waiting on that, and that's a huge piece of information. My gut leans that they probably will just save him for the playoffs, but again, nothing is confirmed yet. What Anthony Becht and the staff feels about how important this game is. They could be super low on it and be like, oh, we won in San Antonio before, we'll do it again. Or they could just be like, whatever, give us the 2 seed. You know, we're going to be fine either way without AJ. Let's just win the 2 games that we need to win at the end of the season. I think you can make a case for both sides. So it's really all about how his ankle is doing too, and if he's even capable of being, you know, you would figure he has to be at least 50% to play. And that's tough because, you know, like if AJ plays, those pass rushers are they're going after him hard. To me, I would just know this going into this if you're looking to bet this game or if you're watching this game as a St. Louis fan. Manny Wilkins is just not going to get the job done against a Brahmas defense that has been so good, leading the lead in sacks. They hold teams to like 33% on third down, which is the best in the league. And it's crazy because AJ had that defense figured out in week 3. They've gotten way better in San Antonio since then. In fact, I would point to week 3 being the turning point where it was by far their worst game. But you can't expect Manny Wilkins to get you home field here, and I'll give it to him. He made enough plays to beat DC, and he fought like hell against Arlington, never gave up at the end of that game, and that's why he ended up throwing a bunch of picks. But he's just not a proven passer. There's just too many weapons on this offense that are being wasted now when he's out there. Think about Hakeem Butler, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year candidate, leading the league in receiving, just 2 catches, 12 yards on 3 targets last week. So just a non-factor. And I'm not going to put all that on Manny Wilkins. I can't squarely blame him. I got to give some credit to that Arlington secondary. But yeah, I don't know if they're able to utilize Pearson and Shepard and an 8-man and some of the guys they have with Wilkins there. San Antonio defensively, worth noting that both of their starting safeties are on the injury report this week, A.J. Hendy and Jordan Mosley. So you could potentially look for a guy like Tease Tabor to step up. He's the third safety there, made a huge play to win the game last week in Mosley's absence. So I feel like it's going to be super tough for this Brahmas defense to hold another team to 9 points, right? We don't see that happening with lightning striking twice. What I do know is St. Louis is not going to score 31 here. I think even if AJ plays, this total to me at 42.5 is probably right around what I'd put it at. So this is tough, guys. Like last time around, wait and see on AJ. We'll do one more quick update before we end, but we're live right now. It's Thursday, and it is currently 7:09 Eastern time, and we don't have it yet. So once we get that, we'll try to update you, and I do have a play on this game potentially if, you know, if he's out or if he's in, but this is a wait and see. For the pick, I do like not going to get to the pick yet, but I do like the St. Louis offense here. And before we pick it, I do want to take a look at the San Antonio offense. Chase Garbers, not on the injury report this week, so that's a good sign. Looks like he'll be the guy. Felt like he kind of earned his job back against Birmingham last week. He went out there in the second quarter, did enough, and just looked natural out there in his first game back, made a few plays. So expect him to be back as Quentin Dormady still nurses an injury. It's notable injury at tailback. Anthony McFarland seems to have re-injured that shoulder that he came in last 2 weeks, already rehabbed. He's not practicing again. And he had a really good last 2 weeks, I thought. He was all over the field for them. So Wade Phillips did hint at saving John Lovett last week and kind of holding him out in case they ran into this situation. So Lovett has been back at practice this week. So even if you do lose McFarland, if you get Lovett back, that's huge. Pace him with Juice Ellison, who double dipped as your goal line tailback in the end zone last week, had a good game. So the heartbreaker of the week for San Antonio, who really, as we talked about throughout the year, has been decimated by injuries, was Cody Latimer. They lose a star tight end as a result of that nasty hit by Kenny Robinson in the first quarter. He's done for the season. He finished with 36 catches, 391 yards, and a touchdown, and had really two of the biggest plays of the season for this team. You think back to week 2, he scores the walk-off game winner in that big 20-point comeback against Memphis. And then who was it against? Houston, right? He had that 3-point conversion to tie it up, which allowed San Antonio to then get a fumble recovery on the kickoff and end up winning on a field goal. So this team would be in a very different place if those two wins didn't happen. In fact, they wouldn't even be in the playoffs, I don't believe. I think that would have opened the door for DC. So huge impact there for Cody Latimer. Next man up is Alize Mack, and he's not quite Cody Latimer, but he is one of the few year one Brahmas under Hines Ward that was able to make the team, right? This was a complete roster overhaul. They brought all the Houston guys in. They added some new pieces, but not many guys made the cut from the Brahmas last year, and Alize Mack did. So they clearly see the potential in him. I am excited to see Chase Garbers here. I know he only got 3 quarters last week, so if he is going to start, we'll see what he does. I believe he will. And remember, extra motivation for him because back in week 3, this was the game that Chase Garbers got injured on. So you look at the tape, it was the last drive. He scrambled out of bounds on a 3rd down and could have been flagged for a late hit, but it wasn't. And he ended up hurting his wrist pretty severely. And he played the next play on a 4th down, and you could see it. It just wasn't right. So some motivation for him. For San Antonio, the offense got better on 3rd down last week. They were around 35% coming in. They end up 5 for 11 on conversion, so I was happy with A.J. Smith there. They hit the big plays again, 4 completions of 20 yards or more against Birmingham, and that's important because back in week 3 against St. Louis, they had 0 pass plays of more than 15 yards. So good to see them stretch in the field. I think they could potentially find some holes in a Battlehawks secondary that gave up over 250 yards through the air to Luis Perez and showed that they were beatable last week against Arlington. And they got a lineup against Jontre Kirkland now, who has been on a tear lately, leading the UFL in receptions. So I think we see a bounce back a little bit from the Battlehawks defense. I don't think they'll play as bad as they did last week. And I do expect San Antonio to have another uphill battle to 20 points. But I think, they'll do enough to win this game. I'm so torn on this because, again, it's just an incomplete story. We don't have the full information of the players that impact this game the most, and really the player in A.J. McCarron. But I am going to go San Antonio here, Zook. I just have a feeling that the Brahmas win this one, and then we have the Battlehawks get their revenge in the XFL championship, even if it is in the Alamo Dome next week, if AJ is able to come back.